Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Wingate Solutions. I hope you're doing well. Some of you may have seen my recent video on how I paint my rifles, and this is going to be a follow-up video to that. So I'm out here, same day I'm filming that one, so it's still drying. I just finished it. I'm going to be painting one of my other rifles, one of my SPRs. It's already painted, but I'm going to give it a fresh paint job. And I'm going to keep it a shorter format video. I'm not going to get lost in the weeds on the how-tos like I did for my previous video for you guys who wanted that long format. For this one, I'm going to try to keep it short with a few extra things I'm going to say, just because it is a different concept, being that it's an SPR with different turrets, that sort of thing. I'll get into that, and then I'm just going to get into painting it, and we're going to see how it ends up. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. All right, guys, real quick on this one. I mean, real simple paint job. As you can see, I already have this thing painted. Some areas are nice and worn, which is perfectly cool. I just decided I wanted to give it a fresh paint job. Just for fun, because I'm out here doing it, so I might as well get some paint going. I had to paint the light, this Arca mount, and a couple other things. But yeah, as usual, like I said, I throw away A2 grip on because I don't like my K2 Plus, which is rubberized, getting all paint all over it. I take the rubber butt pad off, paint up the glass, paint up any numbers you don't want to get paint on them. Obviously, paint up the lens on your red dot. You can do the directions for zero and that sort of thing. Lens and lens on the light. I don't care too much about the rubber on the lights. You can tape that off. Sometimes I do. This one's a little goofy to tape off. So I'm just going to paint it, and it'll wear off on its own. No big deal. Other than that, actually real quick before I start, I'm going to tape off the muzzle device before I forget, because that's a suppressor mount. And that's really it. I don't tape anything else off. I don't tape the trigger. I don't tape the buffer tube. I don't tape the barrel, anything like that. I just paint the sucker. All right, let's get into it. I'm going to give this thing a nice base. I degreased it a little bit already, just the areas where there's some oil pulling up. I threw a fresh mag in just so I don't have to worry about paint getting up in there. Other than that, it's ready to go. I'm going to give it a base coat. I keep these things really random. If you saw my last video, you can plan it out as much as you want. You want XYZ colors, and you want to stay real simple, and you want certain contrast and different shadows, that sort of thing. I just go for it. I get a random paint job. If I don't like it in the end, I'll add a few more colors, or I'll go back and add a few colors I already had on there to make them be stand out on top, and then I'm good. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to start with a base coat. I'm just going to tan and yellow and a little bit of this like light orange. It's going to be a weird base coat, I know. That's the colors I'm going to use for that. It gets cool as we go, so stick with it, and you'll kind of see. And I have this thing on a tracking gimbal. Hopefully it kind of keeps up. I know it looks like I have a cameraman. Maybe I don't. I have an AI cameraman. So we'll see. Again, shake your cans out. I already did a bunch of it out here. Warm them up. Warm up your rifle if you need to. Wear a mask. I'm not. It's nice and breezy out here, and I should be, but it was really awkward to use the mic. Kept knocking it, pulling my mask on and off. And so you guys can hear me talk. We're going to go with no mask. You know, the things I do for you guys. Anyway, let's go. The areas that I already have a lot of paint, I don't need to go crazy getting like real heavy paint jobs, right? Real heavy base coat, rather. I can just kind of get some paint on there. I don't care about the grip, the A2 grip, because I'm going to be putting a different one on. And I'm just getting some paint on there. Get it on the light, because that's nice and new. I don't have to go crazy because I'm going to be adding some other colors then. But you do want to hit the different angles, because if you only see it from the angle that your eyes are right now looking down, you're going to miss a lot. So try to hit the bottoms of everything too. Nice light passes. You don't need to go nuts, because then you're going to get really heavy paint that's not going to dry. It's going to get smeared. And like I talked in the last video, it all depends on what finished product you want. Do you want a really nice start to your rifle's paint job and let it wear naturally? Do you want to just get a dirty paint job on there, not even let it cure, and let it wear down like crazy fast? Nothing wrong either way. Whatever you want to do. But if most guys that are just trying to do this for the first time, they want, you know, a Cerakote type of rattle can paint job, it's not going to happen. Doesn't matter how much prep you do, it's still rattle can. It will wear off, and that's kind of the cool part about it. Rattle can it gets a very unique look. It's cheap. You can do it again. not a big deal. All right, like I said in the last one, I'm a big fan of doing flash cures between. Maybe I'll leave them in for the video. Some of them I'll probably just edit out, so you guys can just assume that in between a certain colors, I'm giving it a little bit of a flash cure, just so if there's any heavy areas, that it's nice and dry for when I start putting the fabric on. All right, these next two colors are kind of crazy. This Bear terracotta flat, get it at Home Depot. It's one you can actually get readily, so it's kind of unique. It's kind of bright. I like it. It does have a good undertone for a color, for like a base like this. And then this Earth Yellow from Airvo. Sorry, probably can't get it anymore. But is what it is. I have a few cans of it, so I'm using it. And all right, see what this thing does. Yeah, the heavier this stuff is put on, it definitely has a little bit of a bright look to it. I like it. I think it looks cool once you start getting other colors over top. You guys can kind of be the judge of that. Decide if it's a color you'd want to potentially add. Yeah, nice sweeping passes. This stage really doesn't matter. There's nothing that has to be like perfect. I'm just adding some other under colors. Most of this is going to be covered up anyway. And you don't have to do this. You could just do one base coat color and then go right to adding the fabric, which I'm going to show you guys in a second. And that's going to work for most of you guys. I'm actually going to experiment with this. I'm going to do pretty heavy on this orange and see how it turns out. So, yes, I'm experimenting on my expensive SPR just because I want to kind of see. I can always redo it. There's a lot more, like I talked about in the last video, a lot more orange and red tones and yellows out in nature than most guys realize. We're just so used to thinking of camos being green, brown, black only. And the reality of it is that's not true. All right. Now this Airvo Earth Yellow color. Test it out first. Make sure nozzle. Nope, nozzle's jammed up. I've had this happen a couple times today. If you don't stay on top of these, I know most guys don't have Airvo. I painted another rifle before this. That just shows these were working fine a few minutes ago, and now they're not. You really have to stay on top of pulling these off and using like brake parts cleaner or something to squirt through to clean out any paint, because they get seized up real easy. So I'm going to switch over to this other one I have real quick. All right, got my nozzle cleaned out. That was a pain. Now my Earth Yellow is working. So I'm going to kind of go back where I have this tan, and this thing's going to kind of end up being a base. He's shooting this right into my face where the wind's blowing. It's going to end up being a orange and tan, or orange and yellow rather, base for the most part. And I think it's going to look cool in the end. There's not going to be a lot of this popping through. And again, I may have already said this. I'm by no means a camouflage expert, but I've been painting rifles a long time, and I get comments on them nonstop of guys want to know how I do mine. So that's why I'm showing you guys. And they work. Now, there's probably better ways to do it. Guys all have their own kind of technique. That's awesome. Don't copy me if you don't like this look. And if this is the first time you're seeing this, believe me, it's going to get a lot better looking in a minute. I'm just kind of adding some colors in here first. This is the base. After this, it gets pretty crazy with the pattern. This yellow is just really light, so got to kind of put it on there a little bit heavier if I want it to kind of pop through real nice. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, I'll probably take the tracker off, then you guys probably can't even see the paint job as it's going. I'm experimenting with this whole camera stuff as I go, as you guys know. All right, let's move on to the next one. We're just going to keep that angle for right now. I'll change it up as I go. I'm going to do this Airvo green next. I think it'll look pretty cool. Give me 1 second to get some fabric. All right, in case you missed my last video, get fabric from like Joann's Fabric. Go to the like wedding section or wherever there's lacy fabric. I know it's awkward, especially if you're like an alpha male. Take your wife, your girlfriend to Joann's Fabric and go pick out some weird lacy fabric. It works. That's what I use. It doesn't have to look exactly like this, and the base color is irrelevant. You're painting it. It's a couple bucks. You'll get a whole yard of it. It'll last years of you painting stuff. So just something that has a unique pattern. I know it looks like it has leaves and whatnot on this. You don't really see that when you do it my way, especially after a few layers. So you'll see in a second. I'm just going to go down the rifle. I hold it up, and then I just spray. And you guys may or not be able to see yet, but you will. And it'll all come together a few layers in, believe me. After I add a few more colors to this bad boy. It's really random. Just hold the fabric on there, spray. You can get lost in the weeds with the different patterns as far as how much you put on, if you do it in stripes, if you want to get more of a two-tone where you only put certain colors over certain colors. I just go random. Keeps it real simple. I've done so many of these that they all turn out kind of cool. And if you don't like it, add more colors or go back to one of the colors you do want to add. If there's not enough darks or not enough lights, you don't have to do it in a particular order. You might find an order that you like to kind of throw them on there. I know some guys like to go light to dark. I said it in my last video. I find that kind of irrelevant at the end of the day, especially with my style of painting. Just kind of go random. Nature's random. You're trying to blend in, that's random. And I didn't really hit on it the other day, so I'm going to talk about it now as I'm kind of going. That's if I don't speed this up and you lose all my audio. I want to talk a little bit about why, right? Why do we paint our guns? One, it's cool, right? I like a painted rifle. It's fun. Makes them kind of yours, makes them original, makes them unique. That is cool, right? We like to make things ours. That's really the main reason. That's why I don't get so caught up in specific paint jobs and guys get so crazy about the color schemes. At the end of the day, having a rifle that's not black is what you need. Like, even if you just painted it all tan, still better than having a black rifle for a real world context. And that'd be what I'd get into next would be, are we painting these things because they're tools and because we foresee ourselves potentially using them for defensive purposes, right? Real world purposes potentially. I'd rather have a painted rifle than a black rifle. So there's that secondary part of it where it actually is practical. You can get lost in the weeds, or you can kind of have differing opinions whether or not it's useful for hunting purposes. That's kind of whatever. But for real world purposes, I'd rather have a painted rifle than not. Another pro is it will help if you're out in the range in the sun. A black rifle out in the sun gets crazy hot. This will help it a little bit, not get quite as warm to the touch as fast. So that is a real world thing too. Plus, it's going to help with corrosion resistance, certain parts of your gun, right? So that's cool too. Not that these things rust like crazy, but it becomes a layer of protection over the anodizing and over any of your other parts. So there's that side of it too. It is practical to paint your rifles. Downsides, right? And you guys see, I'm not really painting this grip because I'm going to be replacing it. That's just in there for painting this thing. Downsides, right? And I'll keep going. Actually, I'll grab my next color and then we'll talk about downsides. All right, we're going random. We're going brown now. So the downsides would be guys don't want to paint their expensive builds because they see them losing resale value. I don't care. I don't buy these things as collectibles. They're ARs. They're modern rifles, right? They're carbines. They're tools. So for me, I don't care if there's paint on it. And if I'm going to buy something used in the aftermarket, I don't care if there's paint on it because I'll probably paint over it, or I can strip the paint off if it really bothers me, if someone really did a bad job. But there is that mindset. I get it. If you don't absolutely love that and you know you're probably going to sell it, don't paint it. Or just jump off the deep end like I do and paint things as soon as you get them. But I've been doing this long enough and I don't really care. I don't buy these as collector pieces. And I don't want to come off as shaming you if you do. Don't get me wrong. I get it. Some guys want to start, they want to do this, so they'll do it to like a 22, or they'll do it to their one of their cheap rifles. I get that, especially if you don't know what you're doing. That's why I'm kind of showing how easy this is. I'm just holding that fabric there. And if you have any idea how to run a spray can, you'll be fine. It's not a big deal. And especially a fabric like this. Obviously, this came from the world of guys using laundry bags all these years. Same exact concept. You get like almost like that rattlesnake look. That's all I'm doing. I'm just using a different type of fabric, and I'm adding a lot of layers of different colors to get the effect. Now, again, if you guys are first time seeing this, it looks kind of random still, doesn't look good yet. Stay with me though. They look cool. It's going to look pretty sweet in the end. And I talk about in my other one, if you don't have as many colors as I have, you haven't acquired a bunch of cans of paint over the years, not a big deal. Do this with 4 colors. Do it with the Rust-Oleum or the Krylon camo paints. Whatever colors you do, just make sure they're flat. You could do black if you wanted to add black. If you wanted to do this like a woodland color scheme, you could do that. Cool. Next color. Now this is a really random color again. To me, it reminds me of like Alpenflage, like the Swiss, I think it's Swiss camo, where they have red. I like adding a touch of this red to my paint jobs. I don't go heavy overboard. I add a little bit here and there. And if I did too much, I'll cover it up. And then by the time I get to the last coat, it seals everything kind of up nice, smooths things out, makes things look a lot better. But it's all about layering. And I just realized I haven't done any under the mag. So I'm going to tuck this guy up. Get a little under there, and I'll make sure to do that around my next pass, next color as well. This is one of those things where it really won't start coming together as a paint job till you get a few more colors in. So if you're starting to be concerned that it doesn't look right, not a big deal. It will. I know I keep being redundant saying that, but even I look at these paint jobs and I'm like, yeah, it's looking a little funky. That's just because I'm not at enough layers yet. Next, I'm going to do, and I keep knocking the cap off before I show you guys. Sorry. The OD green, the dark green from Rust-Oleum. Decent color. Almost like a Ranger green, a little darker. I'll usually go kind of heavy on this one if I need it to be darker. And you guys see, I'm just moving the fabric around. If there's little nooks and crannies I didn't get, I'll go back and get them then. But for the most part, this works. If I need to kind of get it in between an amount, I'll be a little more precise. And I'll get up under here this time again. If I only had like 4 colors, I'd pick a base, do the whole rifle. I'd add some stripes or add some cardboard cutouts or some foliage type of patterns on top of that. And then I would do all 4 colors with this technique, probably ending with my original base coat, if that makes sense. I think that usually ties it together pretty well. You don't have to do it hanging up. You can do it on like a piece of cardboard. That works too. I just like doing it this way, even though I have to kind of be a little more awkward getting up and underneath it. All right, moving on to the next one. Another weird color that I use. This is just me personally. I like the orange earth tones. I think we skip out on how practical they are for like half the year, especially from fall to early spring, especially in my area. A lot of down pine needles, a lot of down leaves. and I just like these tones. I think they look really good. So I do a lot more of these colors than I do even greens. So we'll see how it looks. This is kind of weird roofing paint, like terracotta paint. So it's a little bit random. But real quick, I'll probably pause it here. I'm gonna get a new piece of fabric because these get kind of gummed up. So I have a few pieces, and I'm gonna flash cure this real quick. All right, yeah, I'm just flash curing it just to get everything kind of flat. If there are any areas I sprayed a little heavy, that way when I'm putting the fabric on, I'm not smudging it around, which wouldn't be a big deal as far as having effective camo. I just like to be a little cleaner with how I put this on. So that way I'm not doing all this work and then end up with a kind of a junky ending. But it doesn't matter, it still would be functional. You don't have to do this. You could just wait a minute between each coats too. That would work. I'm just not very patient. If you have a hair dryer or heat gun like this, recommended. Especially if you're painting out in the cold. Next up. This is one of those colors that gets a little crazy looking. And I got to spray it on kind of thin because it's a thicker paint. If I spray it on too heavy, it'll actually not be quite as flat as I'd want. Getting a little nutty now. One thing while I'm kind of doing this, I remembered another con, depending how you look at it, to doing this is cleaning, right? I know some of us don't really clean our rifles, and I'm kind of included in that, in that I don't clean them as often as I should, especially my suppressed guns. They get gunky quick, and I just don't feel like doing the maintenance nonstop. So I'll have a couple that I'll keep kind of clean that are like kind of more my go-to. And then my other ones are just the ones I'm going to use a lot, and they're going to stay pretty dirty. But let me get on with that. The negative to that when it comes to cleaning, you have to be careful what solvents you use. Back in the day, I would just take brake parts cleaner, douse the upper out, the lower, re-oil everything. I'd go nuts, right, cleaning, because I hated having all the fouling and all the gunk that gets into these. Brake parts cleaner was like the easy way to do that, and to some extent, it's great for cleaning guns. If you really need to smack all the oil and gunk off something and then start fresh, I use it, like I'll still use it on bolts that are out of the rifle, but if you spray it anywhere that this is painted, even if you spray it down into your barrel and your chamber, it will get all over the handguard and it'll eat the paint off and it'll look kind of junky. It'll actually wear it off. It'll get all bubbly and flake off. So avoid that. Most other solvents are going to be fine on it. Like most of your gun cleaning stuff, just be aware if you're going to really care about your paint job and aren't going to want it to like flake off real easy or get gummy, don't use brake parts cleaner or any harsh solvents. So, all right. Now I'm going to move on to kind of my coyote brown color. All right, this is like one of my favorite ones to use. It is Field Drab from Airvo. They don't make it anymore. I have a couple now. It's like a coyote. Some lights make it look a little more green. Really, it's like a coyote brown to me. So Rapco, there's a few other people that are making camo paints now. I think Rapco is the brand. They make a coyote. It's probably very similar. Actually, it might even be a Field Drab. Looks very similar to this one if you are dying to get this color. But I'll do a pretty heavy coat of this one, like I did on my last one. Now I'm still not globbing it into one area. I'm just getting on the nozzle a little more. Painting with a broader brush, if that makes sense. Because it kind of tones down some of the bright colors I put on. Leaves just enough poking through where I want that contrast though. Painting rifles is fun. It can be a mess. It can be annoying and tedious to get all this set up, but it's a lot of fun, especially if you do it a random way like this. If you get out all the stencils and you're putting the stickers on and you're trying to really come up with like that perfect multicam paint job, then it's not fun. That can actually be really tedious and annoying. I just don't have time for that. So I like this style of paint job that's kind of just chuck it on there and go. So hopefully you guys like it. Give me some feedback. What do you think? Hopefully I show you guys how easy it is. I mean, I'm doing this while I'm talking to you guys, just throwing paint on, not thinking. I'm just kind of doing it as I go, not even planning it out. So there's a little heavy. A little heavy there, a little heavy there. If I wanted to, I could add some of that original base tan, but I'm going to take a step back in a second, look at this thing and decide if there's any spots that need other colors, and then go from there. All right, guys, real quick. I'm not sure if I'm going to add any more yet. Just want to talk about flash curing or curing. When I am done, I will hit this thing with a heat gun for like 5 or 10 minutes. And then it still will be sticky, right? Now, if you're one of the guys who wants to just paint and go to work, yeah, start using it. It's going to wear off a lot more prematurely. If that's what you're trying to go with, no big deal. If you want this thing to actually have a chance at being a cool looking paint job as far as being fresh a little longer, just get the natural wear at the high spots as you go. Let it dry for a few days. I'm going to let this dry for probably 2 or 3 days until it's not tacky anymore, and then use it. In the meantime, I might still carefully throw the grip on, take all the tape off. I'm going to do that today, and that sort of thing. And then that way it has a little bit better chance of curing, staying flat longer too, and that sort of thing. Yeah. All right. I'm going to add just a few more spritzes in a few areas of this light orange, right? That adds a little bit of highlight, and I might regret it, but we'll see. If not, I will just hit it again with that coyote color. But a few areas that I want to kind of change up. That's the cool thing with this. Feel free to experiment, and then just kind of, if you don't like it, go back 1 or 2 colors, add a little more. You're not adding an insane amount of paint that's going to start affecting anything negatively. But if you want to have a little bit lighter or darker ending, just pick one of those colors, go back to it. Lighter, just go back to one of your base coats, add a few highlights, and obviously darker, make some highlights with the darker. Having a few light highlights against some darker areas really goes a long way. This can's getting a little clogged up. I gotta clean this nozzle. That's looking pretty good. One of the hardest parts is learning when to stop, especially if you have a lot of colors you can put on. At the end of the day, this doesn't really matter much. Adding these like micro textures or micro camouflage, most guys are going to say like, as long as your rifle's toned down, black and not black, brown, tan, green of some sort, even if it's a solid color, you're already halfway there. Micro textures are really just to look cool, and you could argue that they help you blend in at closer distances. That's why a lot of hunting camos have macro and micro texture to them. You want the macro, bigger camouflage to help you blend in at distance, help you not to be a defined shape of a human, or in this case, a rifle. And then up close is where I want those micro textures to help it blend in. Cool. All right, guys, here's a quick close-up of the finished products. And there's some awkward light in here. I'm in the woods. So I will make sure once these are fully done, cured, and I have all the parts back on, need to go on them, I'll make sure I get these out in the woods and kind of give you guys a better view of them. I know right now to some of you guys, these are looking a little nuts. And how heavy-handed you are with the can, how far you are away from the rifles is going to change whether or not you have a really subdued pattern or whether or not you want that really defined pattern with that netting. As you can see here, I like to have a blend of both. That's just going to happen kind of naturally if you're, depending on how you're draping the fabric. That's why I just throw it up there and go. If that makes sense. So yeah, some of you guys might want to be a lot heavier on the green, and I get that, especially depending on where you are. Hopefully that kind of gives you a good look, and I'm not crazy shaky. Sorry about that. All right, guys, it's been like a day and a half. Here's the finished product. I put it next to the one I did from the last video, just so you guys can see a little bit of the difference. So you're going to get a very unique pattern unless you do it the same way every time. That's kind of what I want to show you guys. You can kind of make this whatever you want it to be. Like this one's got a little more, that coyote, a little more green to it. And this one's got a little bit more of that red, orangey earth tones. They're both going to be effective depending on what you're trying to get out of it. And give you guys a little bit of a close up here. Hopefully this kind of smooth. Anyway, like I said last time, as soon as it gets that little flash cure with the heat gun, I'll go ahead and pull all that blue painter's tape off. Use an X-Acto knife if you need to. Then I let it sit for like a day. That's just me. I like to let it cure. Like to wait till it's not tacky. And then it's good, nice and hard. It'll still wear naturally. It'll still get nice patina and character on those high spots as you use it. And that's how I recommend you guys roll. Just let it get that wear pattern on its own. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy that. Put this guy over and show you this side. Yeah, I like this one. Turned out pretty cool. A little unique for sure. If you guys have any questions on it, any feedback, please throw them down in the comments. But with that said, I'm going to roll into that outro. All right, guys, that's going to conclude the video. I really appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed this content, go ahead and hit that thumbs up, that like button. I really appreciate that. Share it with your buddies if you think anybody would like this. It really helps grow the channel with the algorithm, all that good stuff. And subscribe if you're not already. If you have any feedback, want to throw me a comment down below. I really enjoy reading them, so please do that. And let me know what you like, what you didn't like, what you do different, any of that good stuff. Hopefully this gives you the confidence to do this yourself if you're on the fence about it. If not, no big deal. We don't all have to paint our guns. It's just something I like doing. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, if you want to support us in any other way, some of you guys know my wife and I have a very small, just the two of us, nylon company. Right now we're making these 2-point minimalist Freedom slings, and our sling retention straps are our two main products. You can check those out at the website. That is Wingate Solutions LLC.com. And you can also check us out on Instagram at Wingate Solutions. I appreciate you guys. Thank you again for watching this content all the way through. Till next time, guys, get out and train.